So there's a little bit of a countdown here. I don't actually fully trust Restream. I have lost like the first 10 seconds of a couple of streams in the past, so I'm just riffing right now. I'm just making mouth noises until it's time
Do you
for
think
me
that
to do the.
YouTube song is playing right now? That like brown, brown,
I was
brown.
thinking more the pulsing or something like that with the countdown timer. I think
Definitely.
that's enough riffing though. So I'll do the intro now. Now comes the part where I say, "Hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema." If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So, it is the month of December 2024, the end of December 2024, and is that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor today, I have two guests. Not something that happens very often on this program, but I have my usual co-host here on the program, Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. Hey, Brad.
It's good to be back.
But we also have a very special guest in the form of somebody who I often think of as my boss and hopefully like internet friend. But we have here with us Frankie from Red Cow Entertainment / Red Cow Arcade. How's it going, Frankie?
It's going very good. Yeah, thank you. Trevor and I started talking like a year ago, and Trevor had like maybe a couple months after that. He had offered to do some editing for our channel, Red Cow Arcade, which is a podcast that maybe some people have seen. We put up clips publicly. We're best known for some critiques we did of James Rolfe, but we talk about all things YouTube, movies, TV shows, filmmaking, like some inspiration, perhaps family talk, that sort of thing. Trevor's been killing it on edits. Speaking of the holidays, like anytime Trevor edits one, it is like a little gift. I'm like, ooh, what did he do? Because you almost always add like maybe 20 to 30% of like new content. And so it's always really a gift. And you came on our show and we did like a whole awesome discussion about wrestling and video editing and creation and what inspires us and what doesn't inspire us. And so people can, if you like Trevor, which of course you do, you're on his channel right now. Yeah, you should go check out that episode of Red Cow Arcade. But very happy to be here. Well, we've been wanting to do this for a little while too.
Yeah, I've been wanting to have you on the program for a real long time, Frankie. Actually, it's been an absurdly long time coming. My brother actually has been urging me. He's like, "You should get that Frankie guy on the show." like, why the fuck not? But part of it is like, one, I have kind of a simpatico with you guys when it comes to, like, in your case, VHS collecting, like just movie collecting in general, something that all three of us in this room kind of like have in common. You may have noticed Brad has his movies in the background there. Frankie has a stack they set aside before we went live here. But yeah, I'm just really excited to have you on the show. I think this will be a lot of fun, especially because you and EJ have started doing tape hauls. Kind of like I kind of was pushing to make it almost like its own independent like segment within a segment on your clips for Red Cow Arcade, just because of the frequency at which it was coming up as a conversation topic. And like I couldn't help but notice it's like that's essentially what we're about to do here today. It's like Brad and I basically do that with DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K.
Do you guys struggle with space when it comes to DVDs and movies? Like, or do you have like a dedicated wall for this? And it's just kind of, you just have all you've sacrificed is a few inches on a wall. Like, how do you?
Brad, how about you answer that one first?
Way more than a few inches. I mean, right now I'm okay. I've got my own separate room here. But I would say I probably have room for one more media shelf in here, and then we're in big trouble. Luckily, I'm hoping to have moved out of this place by the time that unfortunate event arises. But as of now, I'm okay. I guess the real worry is when I do move, having to move all of these Blu-rays that I won't give a number on how many I have, but it is enough to make that a huge pain in the ass. So that's what's going to be real fun.
I used to do the media shelf thing. Like when I was in college, I would buy those, the IKEA style shelving. And I ended up having like 7 or 8 of them. And, because I was big into DVD collecting. I have a sizable Blu-ray collection. I have a huge DVD collection. Like for some reason, I've really like I put a stake in the ground of DVD, and it feels foolish because like they're way out of style right now. but I'm not throwing out any. I'm not selling any. I always try to take good care of them. Like I try to buy the one with the cardboard slip cover and whatnot. But anyway, so I had those like littered my house for a long time. Like one would be less tall than the other, and it was very incongruent. And if you're into collecting, like this kind of thing's gonna get up your ass. And one day, you know what? I think it was for my birthday. Actually, it was before we had a child, like years before that. My wife, she had the day off, and she somehow, now we're talking about probably 1,000 DVDs, right? She somehow, in the time I was at work, disassembled the entire collection, went to Home Depot, erected shelving, like wall mounted shelves across the whole wall, and then re-alphabetized all DVDs back in order. So when I walked in the house, it was just a magic wall of awesomeness. Wow. Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of the best, the best wife. Yeah, she was making these trips back and forth to Home Depot. And yeah, so to this day, although that wall has just about run out of room, and it's really not adequate for VHS. It's certainly not adequate for Laserdisc. It is adequate though. There's a few extra inches for collectibles and toys. So then like that encouraged more thrifting around collectibles, because I was like, oh, I have a place to put them. And then and then you can't get to any DVDs because they're just toys. But yeah, VHS is kind of like you were saying, like we were talking about VHS a lot. Well, I think that's because like thrifting for it became so much fun. But I almost do feel the urge now to be like, stop. There's no place to put VHSs in this house. Like, you want to get back into Blu-ray? Fine.
Yeah. Trevor, real quick, I just want to go back for when your wife did that. Like, I think that's an awesome gift. Like, that's really cool. So this is just kind of a joke. This is a bit. But was there any worry that she messed up the alphabetization at all? Did you have to go through with a fine-tooth comb? Did she put 7 before Seabiscuit, like that classic kind of thing? Like,
well, this is a good question. You're asking an excellent question, because while I appreciate the whole thing, I am particular about the way, and like any collector, you know, there were some filmmakers, for instance, that I like to put all their movies together. I don't necessarily want to alphabetize theirs, right? And she took note of most of. I think maybe there was 1 or 2
pretty
errors.
good.
She really took note. I don't know how the hell she did. In retrospect, I have no idea how she did it. And we used to talking about a bit. We used to joke all the time about because when we got married in 2009, and she had like a sizable DVD collection, and we did merge them. What was hers became mine, and what was mine became hers. And and we used to joke about, like, so if we were to, and we threw out dupes, we did throw out, or we, whatever, donated duplicates. And we used to talk about, like, so if we were to divorce, how does DVD work?
Holy shit.
Like that classic Beanie Babies.
Or do you just go all streaming? Is that your moment?
Serious questions. But yeah, that's love, baby. Like really to walk into that assemblage, like that lovingly curated and assembled incredible collection of movies in a shelf. That's really cool. Palpable.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, right.
Okay. So we do actually have a unifying topic today, besides just the broad umbrella of collecting in general. That's what brings us here today. But today we're revisiting actually something that Brad and I did last year on Tales from the Shelf, called the Holiday Haul. And essentially what that means is we're going to be talking about movies that we acquired in the holiday season. So I would call that like Black Friday to the end of December, basically. So this will include movies that we've purchased personally or were gifted for, say, Christmas or holidays. So as per usual, we're just going to play a game of show and tell here. We're just going to go around in a circle here, go through a rotation. And as is customary, I'm going to throw somebody under the bus. So, hey, Frankie, you're the newest addition to the hosts of Catching Up on Cinema. Hey, how about you be the first one of us to share one of your holiday haul picks?
Yeah, I was going through the shelf of awesomeness, and I was thinking, it's hard to decipher, like, what was a Christmas present, what was a self present. It's hard for me to remember when I got certain DVDs at this point. Because I've been collecting for like 23 years. But there's one for sure And I know because it was my parents, and my parents aren't necessarily movie lovers. And so they kind of like take stabs in the dark. And so it's always interesting to be like, oh, that actually kind of worked out. There was this nice Scorsese collector's box set. This is standard F DVD. And so this one this is called the Martin Scorsese collection. It's got an ominous graphic of his eyes. I don't really think that's the Scorsese vibe necessarily. I don't think he's like peering at everyone ominously, but Boxcar Bertha, New York, New York, special edition. I don't know what special edition means in any of these contexts. New York, New York, New York, The Last Waltz and Raging Bull, special edition 2-disc DVD collector set. So you get 4 movies, and they're all winners because they're all Scorsese. And let's see it. Let's look at it, because you know what? I haven't opened this in a long freaking time. It looks a little bit like your Walmart. Remember those $5 Walmart bins?
Heaven.
You just go sifting through. Heaven. This is an old one. Yeah, this is 72.
Yeah,
this is very early Scorsese. Yeah. I think the runtime's like 90 minutes. Like, what Scorsese film have you heard of? That's 90 minutes.
Who put out those discs, by the way, Frankie?
Who did put out these discs? Okay. These are all MGM. So I think these are every time United Artists MGM. I think every time they owned a Scorsese movie. That's what ended up in this collection. So Last Waltz. Don't you there's nothing like
something about the dimensions of a DVD box are just kind of perfect. Like I don't use that word lightly. Like it just something about it is very cozy. It feels very appropriate to get the most out of your poster image, kind of like it's the closest to it in some ways.
It's probably it might even be like very close to the typical dimensions for a poster, whatever it is, 24 by 36 or something. And then this is like
I actually used to have that one, like exactly that one.
Yeah, got Jake on the back. Remember in this movie they like the big thing was like he got real fat, and I'm like, it's really not that fat.
Yeah, it was advertised with that. He got fat. Bobby D got fat.
Check it out.
Jared Leto tried the same trick.
He weighs 180 pounds.
Jared Leto tried the same trick. Jared Leto got fat, and then people saw the movie.
Pesci's looking real warm in this image. This looks like maybe a production
still. That was like super early in his film career, if not like the very beginning for him. And something about like that character and also the way he was filmed in black and white. And also he has like a little bit of like a bucktooth thing going on. Like I'm not sure if you probably like I don't think he was wearing prosthetics or anything. But he had a slightly different look at that stage in his career.
Oh yeah, look, there's a booklet, and there's a page called "Making the Weight."
Getting fat.
Nice. Raging Bull traces Jake LaMotta's physical decline from trim, muscled fighting machine to the bloated man of later years. For De Niro, the idea of wearing padding, a fat suit, quote unquote, while portraying those later years was not an option. In mind and body, he was determined to be as much like the ex-champ as possible. I can't fake acting, he said. I know movies are an illusion, and maybe the first rule is to fake it, but not for me. I'm too curious. I want to deal with all the facts of the character, thin or fat.
I mean, he did spend a lot of time face to face with Jake LaMotta. Like he hung out with him quite a lot. Yeah. And if memory serves, he actually supervised his boxing training for the early stages of production.
Oh, wow.
It is.
It's a great movie. I mean, and it came out after Rocky, right? And it's kind of like the anti-Rocky in a lot of ways.
It's interesting because it came out in like 1980, so that would have been between Rocky 2 and 3, like before like Rocky blew up into, the cartoon kind of spectacle that it would become later on. But yeah, it is kind of like the antithesis of Rocky in so many aspects.
The everything is wrestling version of Rocky.
Yeah, folks at home, if you're not aware, everything is wrestling. That is like a worldview / philosophy that I'm trying to propagate out into the world. I don't know in what form it'll take, but I did actually use Frankie's YouTube channel as a little bit of a platform to get that out there, just ever so slightly.
If anybody buys it.
Trevor's been pushing that idea for years, and I'm finally buying into it. I'm bought in. What you said something to me about I don't even know. It was some movie or something. You're like, everything's wrestling. I'm like, damn, he's right. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I look out my window and everything is red. I look at like politics these days and I'm like, oh, that's just the NWO wolf pack. It's a schism in the NWO.
Well, I posit the inverse. Wrestling is everything.
Everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything. Yeah, I mean, both are true.
Like wrestling's not one thing. Wrestling is so many things. And so almost anything you can make an analogy to wrestling with just about anything.
That's really the point I'm trying to push is that like I can find a way to relate basically everything that has happened in history back to the history of pro wrestling and vice versa, probably.
Yeah, every human narrative.
I mean, anything that exists that long, like without a single break in its history, basically, it is just bound to touch everything at some point. But
yeah, in an infinite universe, all things will happen.
Super Anthony, by the way, drops in the chat saying that I heard that De Niro got depressed because of the weight gain he put on for the film. I mean, wouldn't you? I think he was consuming tubs of ice cream, like he was choking that shit down. Like it wasn't fun. It's kind of like probably like the life of a bodybuilder or something, where it's like you're not eating for any reason other than like a singular purpose. It's not really pleasure. It's a form of torture in its own way.
Well, De Niro, what he's saying there is I'm a method actor and I do the Stanislavski school and I've got to experience it firsthand in order for, to express the truth of the performance. But there's an alternate school of acting, which is like, if you sort of fit everything is wrestling, but if it's not, then it's James Rolfe. Yes. Very good. Jason Graves. There's an alternate theory, which is like, if you smile a lot, you'll eventually feel happy. If you eat tubs of ice cream and get real fat, you'll eventually feel sad. Like you can affect, like through your physicality, you can affect certain emotions. So it's like an out to in instead of an in to out kind of a thing. I think there's some truth there. There's some fake it till you make, like, when people tell you like, change your outlook, they're saying like, try to smile, even if you don't feel like smiling. There's some truth to that you'll actually sort of like change your
I think there's quite a lot of truth in that performance specifically, because you're going from an athlete who had to routinely starve himself to make weight, like squish himself down into a smaller weight than his body was intended for. You're going from that kind of like state of animalistic frenzy of like being physically backed into a corner by squeezing yourself down, like squeezing all the water out of yourself and then having to go fight. And then you're taking that same person and you're putting 100 extra pounds on them or whatever. And it does flip a lot of switches psychologically and also physically, just because it's such a dramatic change from the routines that came before. So like going through that transformation personally, I imagine would help you step into the shoes of the psychology of that person ever so slightly, just more genuinely.
I'm sure he got over it though once he won Oscar Gold for that role. Let's be real. His depression went away as soon as he walked up on that stage. He loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm never getting fat again.
Yeah, I just put on the Untouchables for some reason last night. Like I was doing push-ups and I put on the Untouchables for some reason. Like if you want a window into the life of Trevor, that was my last night.
Nice.
And I looked up.
Fuck yes,
pretty much. But yeah, I looked up and I see kind of chunky Bobby D, and then I think he just like during that phase of his career made a habit out of kind of like going both ends of the spectrum, because like Cape Fear, Christian Bale also would be a more contemporary example of that. But Cape Fear, he also trimmed down quite a lot. He got real physical for that. But Untouchables, he's Al Capone. He has to be big. It's part of the character. It's part of the person. So
yeah, I think he did wear prosthetics on his face.
Oh, he had to.
Just I don't think that's just
Jake LaMotta's facial structure. Like, he looks like hamburger. Like,
that would worry if I were him. That would worry me that people are going to think that it is in fact a fat suit because some of the performance was prosthetics. I'd be like,
it's like, what was the point of that if nobody knows? Like, that's why you need to have those scenes where he's at the pool with his shirt off and stuff, just to help maintain the illusion. But so that's enough on Scorsese. By the way, that was a very handsome box set there, Frank.
I liked it. Yeah, thank you,
I've never
Mom.
seen
Thank you,
that
Dad.
particular packaging before, but I like the monochromatic look of it. It's handsome, although like you said, that particular view of Scorsese is not the tone that I think of when I think of him as a person. I think of him as being pretty bright and
No.
warm and friendly, and like kind of snappy and quick, but friendly.
Being very light and warm and friendly, and getting on set,
Yeah,
and then trying to figure
that's
everything
the
out.
tone. That's the cadence.
And maybe taking a pregnant pause, letting
Yes.
everybody figure it out with you. Because cinema is a living thing.
That's pretty good.
That's a
So,
very
is that a
good
good Scorsese?
Scorsese.
That's a
pretty
You
good.
just need to gripe about Marvel movies more.
It's a very good roller coaster, but it's not cinema. Cinema is a thing.
Just need more
that this is
tented
not.
fingers and more ramblings about Marvel movies that he probably hasn't even bothered to watch.
Yeah.
We love you, Marty.
I can't believe everybody clapped back at him that hard for it when like Marvel then took such a shit dive. Like he should have just waited till like 2022 to make
he's
that comment.
so
He's like, "This
ahead of
shit's
the
not
game
cinema."
in everything he does. He was nobody knew that he was right until years later.
Yep. W takes years in advance.
If he had just waited a few years, everybody would have been like, here, Marty, you're on the right track. But
it would have been easy. Like, fuck Captain Marvel.
Just a back of the box quote.
I went to the cinema and I said, fuck Captain Marvel. And everybody said it with me.
Okay, so enough about Marty. Hey, Brad, how about you share your first holiday haul pick for today's discussion?
Well, I'll start off with a holiday haul that I purchased for myself, actually. Everything else was gifts. I've been spending significantly less lately, but I popped on the Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday sale. Now, I was super excited because I got shipping notification. I'm like, oh man, all my movies are coming. Fortunately, I opened up the package and there's only one movie in the box. So no, it is not Cannibal.
Is it Cannibal?
Unfortunately, I missed out on that one, at least on the slipcover.
I got it, and I'm going to be making a full-blown video.
I think that one, that one you can still get it. It just the slipcover sold out, so I'll probably get it at some point. But I was too slow on that.
They had a VHS too that I got.
Right,
it was a VHS with like a light up LED thing.
It's one of their new labels. It's not. Is it DeGauser Video? I can't remember. Yeah.
Oh yeah, DeGauser. Yeah, you got it. Yep.
So I didn't get that one, but I did buy some movies. The one that shipped, I'm hoping all my other movies are coming in a separate package. Vinegar Syndrome notoriously slow at shipping stuff out, so I'm not worried yet. But the one that I did get was probably the hot ticket item from the sale, and that was the 4K of Michael Mann's The Keep, which is one of the only Michael Mann movies I haven't seen. I think there might be like one or two others. But this one has been notoriously hard to watch for like years and years and years. And not that I wanted to spend $45+ to purchase this movie blind buy that everyone says is actually maybe not even secretly, that everyone says, oh, it's not even good. It's a mess. It's boring. It's bad. But I said, you know what? I love Michael Mann, so I got to do it. And it is a pretty handsome package. And just the fact that it was like, out of print for so long, I had to spend the money. I had to pop on it, especially when I saw they were going through 12,000 units in like, I think 2 days it sold. It's pretty crazy. I think people just kind of went nuts for it. But I'm excited to see it. I love Michael Mann. It's a horror movie, so it should be right up my alley. I have not seen it, so I can't really comment on the movie much. But I'm very excited to check it out. I'm hoping all my other movies come in a separate package too. Otherwise, I'm going to be very worried and might have to get on the phone with customer service Ed over at Vincin.
I don't know enough about them. How do they license this stuff in the first place? Do they actually go out and license it? They
right now I think it's owned by Paramount because they just started putting out a lot of Paramount titles. So I think Paramount owns the rights. So yeah, they go out and license it from them. So they've been
and maybe Paramount figures like, well, we had no plans to do any new physical media anyway, so it's just an opportunity for us.
Basically a way to make money without doing any work. Just do whatever you want, just pay us, and you can put out The Keep on 4K. I want to say, funny enough, that I think it Trevor, you might know, was it Second Sight also announced they're putting out a 4K of The Keep. They're an Australian company. And people were kind of laughing at everybody who panicked to buy the Keep from Vinegar Syndrome, even though it's now coming out through another distributor as well. Although I've never actually bought anything from Second Sight, so I'm glad I went with the Vinegar Syndrome version. But now that it's out there, the floodgates have opened. The Keep is just, I mean, it's going to be in everybody's, maybe not this Christmas, but next Christmas it's going to be in everybody's stocking. Like you're not going to be able to turn away from it.
Yeah, it went from difficult to acquire. Now it's just out there. It's out there. It's loose. I'd be curious to know like what regional encoding the Australian one is. Like if it's a B or something.
Yeah, if it's 4K, it should be region free.
Region free. Yeah.
I don't. The one thing is like it might have the movie might be on 4K disc, but then Blu-ray for the bonus features, and then you're region locked. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know actually, but I'd be curious to know how Vinegar Syndrome goes about acquiring their distribution rights as well, just because of how diverse their catalog is these days. Like it's just across all sorts of different like production companies and genres. Like they seem to be pretty business savvy when it comes to making and maintaining those relationships. They do have certain tendencies I've noticed. Like they do have certain entities that they seem to be extra cozy, like in working with. Like, I don't know who owns the rights to all of the numerous Don the Dragon Wilson and Cynthia Rothrock movies that they've been putting out over the past 5 years or so, but it seems like both of those actors' catalogs are something that either they're actively pursuing, like with a lot of fervor, or it's just something that, like, perhaps they got a package deal or something. Frankie is pointing out here that he has some audio issues. I hope that that's not the case. I wasn't noticing.
I'm not sure.
I did notice like a couple of glitches here and there. I don't know if it's evened out since then. You guys both seem fine for me.
We'll ask the chat if I'm way off sync or I'm way behind or something. Let me know, chat, please, and I'll exit and re-enter.
Thank you. But yeah, as for myself personally, haven't seen the Keep. But I know it has an interesting. Oh wow, we're getting a live unwrapping.
Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, haven't seen it personally, but it's long been on my to-do list. Partially because it's an unusual element of Michael Mann's filmography. It stands out like across like the typical things that you would expect from his filmography, and also because it's been hard to find. But hey, now Vinegar Syndrome's putting it out, and it seems like they did a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know people scrambled for that 12,000 copy. I think they are going to have a standard edition. So, I mean, Trevor, if you're dying to watch it in 4K, you should be fine. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was like, oh yeah, I'll wait until, later on in the year. 12,000 units. They're not going to go through 12,000 units over the weekend, and I think they listed it on Thursday night and it was gone by Saturday morning. Pretty wild. Like I mean, good for them.
Yeah, the surprise release of that one. Yeah, Frankie is back.
Check. Are we better? Check.
Seems good on my end, but
you guys are getting it through StreamYard and they're getting it through YouTube.
Yeah.
So hopefully rejoining helped.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's kind of the limit, like the extent of how much I can rejigger
troubleshoot
things.
it. Jason said that if you're not paying attention to the video, it's no problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good to know, because then if it's a severe problem, then I can just post the audio only.
Anthony says it's better. So thank you guys for letting us know. Yeah,
thank you, Anthony. Sorry for calling you Anthony. It's a habit.
Sorry, Anthony.
But yeah, the surprise release of the Keep, I know, was a really big deal for the collector circles out there. Like I know, like it kind of came out of nowhere, and then enough people gobbled it up quickly enough that it's like, oh wow, like unless you were on the ball, you probably completely missed out on it. But hey, Brad, you got lucky, I guess.
I mean, people were listing this on eBay for like upwards of like $150. So by taking off this, you guys basically just watched me burn $100 bill. So you're welcome. You're welcome for that.
Well done, Brad. I hope it was worth it, man. Well, hey, we actually have an audience today, slightly. So, it's actually kind of nice to do something like that for an actual crowd. Okay, so I suppose I will pass the baton to myself. I'm gonna follow Brad's suit here and talk about something that I purchased for myself. Not on sale. I paid out the nose for this one just because of my enthusiasm for it. Not It probably wasn't wise. I probably should have held off, but at the same time, it's from a very small disc publisher, so it's just always going to be expensive because of that. Anyway, I have here in my hand something that I've talked at Brad quite a lot about. Frankie, prepare yourself. So, I'll try to keep this brief. But I have here the Roundup Punishment on 4K. And actually,
here we go.
Brad's already laughing.
And Frankie, actually... you want to take a bathroom break? This is going to be a while. I'm gonna get up and get a refill.
So, Frankie, have you ever heard of the Roundup?
No.
Okay, this is a South Korean series of movies. They're like crime thrillers, like cop and robber kind of movies. They have a very good sense of humor about themselves, and kind of the gimmick comes in the form of this fella here on the cover, Ma Dong-seok, or Don Lee. Outside of Korea, that's just a shortened name that they give him for people who don't speak Korean. He's just a really big brick shit house man who's just really fun to watch hit people. Like that's his brand. Is he's a big cuddly teddy bear, but he's like 6 feet wide and 5 feet tall, and his head probably weighs as much as my whole body. And the whole franchise is based around him going around being like a humble, cool dude. And then when shit gets real, he punches people and they go flying across the room. And it's cinema. It's the greatest thing. Like, it's my favorite thing in movies is watching this man punch people. And these movies, there are now 4 of them. This is the 4th. Deliver every single time. Like, they still have not run out of steam. And it's such a simple format. The finale of each and every one of these movies involves him being trapped in an enclosed environment with the villain of the film and them just beating the fuck out of each other. Usually it's like just a one-sided drubbing, and it's just him doing like a one-man hardcore match on the villain of the movie, who we've seen be a really, really bad guy. That's part of the charm of Korean cinema, is that they're really big on having villains be villainous. Like it's black and white. There's very seldom like shades of gray when it comes to like commercial cinema. It's like,
does that mean that they invest a lot of time into making the villains very unlikable, like especially unlikable? Yeah,
exactly. They make it clear that you're not supposed to be thinking too much about the dimensionality of this person. It's like, this is a bad guy. It's like when it comes time for this guy's face to get caved in at the end of the movie, you don't have to feel bad about it. Yeah, like, the movie's telling you it's okay. He had it coming. And that's part of the charm of these movies, is that the main character is a cop, but it takes place in Korea, so the cops don't have guns. And it's a 0 body count affair for the hero, where it almost feels like a Rocky movie in some regard, where it's like he doesn't kill the villain. He always just beats the shit out of them. And you get the 1-2 punch catharsis of street justice followed by legal justice, where it's like the end of the movie always involves the villain going to jail or going to prison or something. But before that, the movie understands we need to see him get the shit kicked out of him first. Like, he needs to get both for everything to be complete. And it's just magic. It's magical cinema, magical filmmaking, where first movie ends in a public restroom. It's just everything you would imagine from a bathroom fight. That's something I need to do a video about, by the way. Best bathroom fights in cinema. Oh, yeah. It's a great setting for a fight.
Eastern Promises comes to mind, though. That's the nude locker room fight. Yeah.
Yeah, the naked fight in the sauna.
Count that. Yeah. I would count that.
Yeah, I would count that. I would allow that. There's most assuredly a toilet right over there in the sauna.
So that's the criterion, is like a toilet cannot be more than 10 feet away.
Yeah, exactly. You need to draw up a 3D model diagram of like, technically the toilet's right over there, so it counts.
Yeah. This is a bathroom fight, folks.
Yeah, best bathroom fights in cinema is a project I would love to take on someday. But yeah, the first movie in the series ends in a public restroom. They smash every toilet in there. It's glorious. Second one ends on a bus, and they do everything you would imagine you could do in a bus with a big fucking dude. throwing the guy through windows and through chairs and stuff. Third one ends in a police station office, and I believe that he does a German suplex through a desk, like it's what you do. And then the fourth one ends on a plane, which is a great setting for a fight because it's a lane. There's nowhere to hide.
Right.
You can go forward, you can go backwards, and if a guy is big enough to pick you up off your feet, you can go upwards, and it happens.
Are there people in the seats, or is it empty?
They empty it out right before, but they change up the formula. They change up the format because the fourth one ends with, it starts out as a 2-on-1 fight, and then it turns into a 1-on-1. And I can talk endlessly about this stuff, and I can tell Brad's eyes are rolling back into his head. This is the show, Frankie. Whenever I'm talking about people punching each other on film, this is how I get. But the ebb and flow, everything is wrestling. The story, the physical storytelling that happens in the final fight of this fourth movie is really simple, like elemental stuff, but they handle it so well, where it starts out as a 2-on-1. The lesser of the two threats gets dispatched. The greater of the two threats has been demonstrated to be very adept with a knife throughout the entire movie. And then he picks up a butter knife, which he wrenches off the curved tip of it to make it a bladed tip. And then for that stanza of the fight, he's in charge, because we've seen up until that point in the movie, that's what he does. He does knives. And then the final blow of it ends up being a counter to his knife techniques that he's been using throughout the movie. And it makes so much sense. It's so beautiful.
Have you ever directed or edited a fight scene before, like for a film or anything?
I have. I've made a couple of shorts with a friend of mine, and I had a blast doing it.
It's so hard, because it betrays a lot of like what makes filmmaking less complex. Like a dialogue sequence, or if you're moving somewhat slowly through a space, you can kind of map out and plot and design your setups, your camera setups. Whereas like with a and you can kind of obey continuity rules. You can obey the 180 rule. You can the blocking can make sense to the audience and stuff. But yeah, with fights tend to be chaotic, but they can't be too chaotic. And you could try to shoot them clinically, where you have close-ups on punches, and but then you have to hide those even better, and it's very, very, very complicated. And and then the sound design of the fight too is like the subtlety and impact of punches have to be carefully designed. It's such a not to mention the whole thing needs to be choreographed intelligently and creatively. And like, the narrative, the story is the most important thing, which is like, what are the power levels of these two people? What do we already know about them? What opportunities will there be for suspense throughout the fight? It's a mind fuck. It's very, very hard to film a fight scene.
No, I agree. Like, having some experience doing it myself, and actually I was on the set for a professional shoot, just doing like PA work. I was like biting my lip the whole time because I was just a PA volunteering, basically being paid in ham sandwiches or whatever.
Yep.
But I was watching the way they were filming a fight around which the entire short film was based. And I was just like, man, you don't know what you're doing. Like the guy was just kind of like wheeling around on a wheelchair as a dolly, and they weren't getting any coverage. I was like, when you get this into editing, you're going to have zero options, and it's going to look sluggish. It's going to look flat. It's going to have no energy to it or impact. I was getting real pissed, because it's a very unique thing. And it's interesting seeing like the Hong Kong system for how they do these things, where it's really, when you get to set is when you do it. And usually they devote like three days of just go all out all day long to pacing out, usually linearly, because it's such a difficult thing to wrangle and wrap your head around. It's like they actually just like beat by beat kind of progress through the thing linearly and get all the takes they need.
Yeah, you couldn't even hope to do it with multi-camera. But you just have to go slow. I think that's the answer. The filming needs to be slow, that is. And then and then there's the energy of the performers too. That's something to concern yourself with.
Yeah, we can get off of this because I would like to get Brad back in the conversation.
I love it. No, you guys are great.
No, I love it too. I can go all night with this stuff, but like a big part of it is the energy of it. Like there's so much performance involved in it, where it is its own school of acting because you're doing it for film. And actually, Hugh Jackman of all people, as a song and dance man, a guy who's accustomed to learning, dance routines as a form of choreography, I've always kind of lauded his ability, like the choreography he's done for like the Marvel movies and stuff, like the X-Men movies and stuff. It's never super complex or anything, but when it comes to his emotional engagement in the filming of it, there's little things like his facial acting in between beats of choreography is a huge difference maker, because there's so many instances you see of actors turned, wannabe stunt performers who you can see like the way that they hold their hands. There's like a mechanical quality to it where they're psyching themselves out just trying to remember all the steps to the point that they're hitting their marks, but they're not acting. They're
not
just
feeling it.
They're not feeling it, and you can tell. And a lot of that.
And there's kind of two layers of feeling it. There's selling it, in the wrestling sense.
Yeah.
And then there's telling the audience what they need to know about the character.
Yes.
In each of those moments, which wrestlers have to do as well, because everything is wrestling.
Everything is wrestling. And on that note, we can pull away from Trevor's corner of talking about punching to hey Frankie, you're next up in the rotation, bud. What's your next holiday haul pick?
All right, so I got a I don't know if it was a Panasonic or what. I got a combo, one of those CRTs that was like a flat screen with a combo DVD when I was 16. I think it was Christmas 2002. So I was like a little bit late to DVD. Like some people had been doing DVD, but around that, it's like, call it Attack of the Clones era, where like things were starting to be standardized. There was like a year or two, like Matrix, Phantom Menace, whatever, where like rich kids had DVDs, and then like film enthusiasts had DVDs, and then kind of by like 2002 sort of everybody started to have DVDs. And I remember when I got that TV, it was kicked off with like Cannibal the Musical, of course, like Chasing Amy, of course. It's a lot of my kind of like core teen years film DVDs, the foundational DVDs. And it really, I mean, like, I can't oversell the impact of, like, I can listen to the director speak while I watch the movie. It's just such a, I almost thought it was something somebody made up. I was like, that's not possible. Like they talk the whole time, or it's just like a little video I can watch or whatever. And you remember like the picture in picture, you can watch them talk about it. So that was all very exciting. And a lot of the DVDs at that time were just made with so much love. Like the DVD itself was such a project. I really miss it. But anyway, I was trying to remember what was in that initial batch. What would I have asked my parents for when I was 15, 16 years old? Because it was something like 5 or 6 movies. And it was like my starter pack that I rewatched a million times. I think Requiem for a Dream was in there too. That was the one that has like the 900 infomercial as the DVD menu, which was very, it's like so like discordant with what the film even is, which I kind of love. Like the DVD is trolling you a bit. But John Hunt, who is my co-host and very good friend, that's on the Red Cow Entertainment channel, where we do like cooking stuff and shopping stuff. It sounds so pedestrian, but I swear it's there's a lot of character development involved. He was like an older guy who was like mentoring me a little bit, and like, did you know that other movies exist besides Star Wars? And for some reason, right around that time, Run Lola Run was one of those movies. I think kind of everybody knows it now. But this was and like they actually put out a pretty good DVD for it. Yeah, like they have the director and lead actress commentary, both of whom are German, and the commentary was in English, so that was really exciting because the movie's not. They had multiple audio options. There were production notes. Remember they would put like text in a DVD? You would sit there reading text on a DVD because the idea of like going to a website. I don't know. I guess we couldn't have done that. But yeah, this was one that let's see if there's anything else that's interesting in it. Because again, I try to preserve almost everything that came with it. Back then you always got like a narrative and a write-up.
Liner notes.
You got liner notes. This was just, I point this out. This was an exciting movie from that era. In some ways, I feel like this was a kind of a defining movie of that era where it was getting less weird to watch a foreign film, for instance. And DVD, I think, was a big reason for that, because you could go to an FYE or whatever the hell it was called at the time, or a Suncoast or whatever, and you would pick something up for $5 to $10 and try it out. Like, I have to imagine DVD just brought in way more revenue for the film industry than VHS ever did. Because people were willing to roll the dice. They were kind of excited to buy content for their new digital system. And there was more reason to, I don't know about you guys. I've got lots of movies where I don't even really like the movie that much, but I love the special features on, so like, I'm like proud to have the DVD because I'll pop it in and listen to what were they thinking? This was during a time where a movie could fail theatrically, or it could succeed in a film festival, and then it could succeed on DVD. So it could fail theatrically, succeed on DVD. Like Miramax was really, really big on that at the time. Like, they're honestly probably responsible for like this whole new market of filmmakers from that period. I think the early 2000s is like a very, in the 90s as well, but the early 2000s was a really exciting time for movies. And I think DVD had a lot to do with it. And when that revenue stream dried up, or it basically vanished, I think you see it reflected in what movies get made, right?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how, showing off that Run Lola Run DVD, how, you got the liner book, you got all these bonus features. It's funny now how, like, the studio releases have like none of that anymore. But like, you look at, not to bring it back to like Vinegar Syndrome or even Criterion or whatever, they're still kind of filling that space, but for like the least, like, least popular movies, like, like a movie called like Blood Tracks will get like an insane like feature length making of documentary, commentary track, liner book. And I think that's great, but it is kind of funny that like now the big studio movies are kind of just, they're getting dumped on discs, but it's these either classic movies or like absolute schlocky garbage that's getting the love and care.
Do you remember at that time, like, I assume that you were big into DVD at the same time. And I remember telling family friends, it was like, oh, like, let's watch these special features. Or did you watch the special features? And they're like, no, never. And I never would. And I was always, you know what? Like, in the back, even as a teenager, in the back of my mind, I was like, well, shit, if enough people feel that way, they're going to stop doing these at some point.
Yeah.
If all anybody does is press play, well, crap. So anyway, that's my, you had asked last time who put it out. Let's see, in the States, who Sony Pictures picked it up and put it out.
Yeah, cool. It's always a question we toss out there, but yeah, that's really interesting. Like what you were saying about the time period and how DVD sales likely were driving film production.
Oh yeah,
just because it had that much of a bearing on what was profitable and what was not. Like the ones that come to mind, especially when you say the 2000s, are Daredevil and The Punisher. It's like we got two of those Punisher movies, neither of which I think anyone was especially happy with, but everybody bought them. Like everybody, that Walmart bargain bin that you mentioned,
yeah,
full of Punishers, full of Tom Jane Punisher DVDs.
Well, it felt like because Blockbuster did start to fail or become kind of anemic at some point. It'd be interesting to figure out what year. I don't know about you. I feel like part of the reason that rentals so obviously mail-in Netflix was a huge piece of this too. But my point is, it seemed to me like more people were willing to roll the dice and buy a DVD. Like, fuck it. It's, like at the most expensive, they're $20. And if I buy T2 on DVD, it'll look really cool on my new TV or something. Like I bought this new sound system and I want Matrix on it. Like people would just pick stuff up especially like the Walmart $5 thing alone. Like that was, the fact that manufacturing for film, the cost of manufacturing for films went down so much gave way to Netflix, but it also made it kind of appealing to the consumer to be like, I'll just buy a bunch of these. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of my starting point for film collection was DVD. Cause I told you this, I told you and EJ this when we had an opportunity to speak on the Red Cow channel. Really a big part of what got me into it was the fact that I was watching a lot of import movies, and DVD enabled you to subtitle a lot of your films very easily. And also just like I was getting into bootlegs and stuff and like bypassing regional encodings. And I had subtitled VHS tapes, but there was a quality degradation that would come with it. And also they were very expensive. So just having access to the ease of use of DVD was a huge selling point for me, as well as the bonus features. Honestly,
It was
that
also
was
like,
that was huge. And chapter selection was huge
oh
for
yeah,
me. Like if
yeah.
if Trevor wants to skip to the end of a Rocky movie just to watch the people get punched, we're there, dude.
Yeah, he's not. You're not like trying to speculate with the rewind. Like, okay, I think it's probably about right. But it also, I do think the special features was a huge opportunity to introduce you to the filmmaker. Like famously, the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings sets was like, okay, now I know everything I need to know about this New Zealand production. That, like, without that DVD set, how do you? If those movies had come out 10 years, 15 years prior, you would have been reading it in a magazine, or you would have seen maybe like a National Geographic special. Maybe they would have profiled it, and you might have caught it on TV or something. Or maybe they would have put out a special VHS tape about the making of Lord of the Rings, and it would have been 1 hour. But DVD suddenly, like, yeah. So if you were a cinephile, suddenly you were like, all right, tell me more. And filmmakers like Kevin Smith could be like, if you're like unsure about my movies, let me introduce you to me, and maybe you'll like me and you'll kind of root for me. And then I think the next thing that happened after that was the YouTube influencer who was like, all right, well, maybe me is the whole brand, like, let me, I'll just, I'll skip the filmmaking part,
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I think that's the realm that we're currently in. There's quite a lot of that, like personality driven productions where it's like you're no longer following the film or the production company so much as the person involved in it, like the personality involved in it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm kind of okay with that. Like, because sometimes the thing that's compelling about a film is who made it. Sometimes,
No, I'm a big proponent of being selective in your media diet, like knowing why it is you're consuming the things you're consuming, as opposed to just like taking what's on the front page of Netflix just because that's where it is or that's where it landed.
Yeah. Here, eat this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I like to know, like, I respect it when people know why they're reaching for things, kind of.
Yeah.
That's why I love starting a director's filmography from the start and watching as much as I can do that. If like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go in and watch, like I watched a bunch of Catherine Bigelow movies this year. And I'm like, I've never seen any of her early stuff. I'm going to start there and, make my way up through, I think Zero Dark 30 was where I ended off, so it was kind of interesting just to see her styles change and her grow as a filmmaker. Like I love doing that. And yeah, I think if you know who's behind it, it certainly makes the, thought process going into it a lot better.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know you were going through her filmography, Brad.
It was like last summer or something.
Okay.
I don't know what. I think it was because I got Point Break on 4K, and I was like, I think I finally need to watch some of these early Bigelow movies. So yeah,
I used to do that all the time. I did it with Netflix mail-ins in particular for some reason. I'd be like, all right, this is like Alan Rickman summer, or whatever.
That's awesome.
It's over.
It's over. By Grandpa's hammer, you shall be avenged.
There's a movie called An Awfully Big Adventure where he has sex with an underage girl. It's what the movie is, man. It's really fucking strange. But they're in the background of the movie, they're putting on a production of Peter Pan, and he plays Captain Hook, and he does he does a huge Captain Hook monologue. Alan Rickman, like, search for it on YouTube, Alan Rickman and Captain Hook.
I would watch that.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
I mean, the man carried Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves on his fucking shoulders.
Loxley, I'm gonna cut your rod out with a spoon. My kid and I say that all the time. We're like, why a spoon, cousin? Because it's dull, you twit. It'll hurt more.
Actually, a friend of mine, a former coworker, that was his go-to as well. I know that one very well.
Great movie.
All right, Brad, what is your next holiday haul pick?
Well, let me do a nice seamless transition here. Alan Rickman, of course, who did many great roles, but we'll mention his role as Severus Snape in the Harry Potter movies, which also starred Rupert Grint as Ron Weasley, who also starred as one of the cult members in A Knock at the Cabin, which is directed by M. Night Shyamalan, who also directed Trap, which I got on 4K this year, a gift for Christmas, which I like this movie a fair amount. I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan. You could say apologist, but I think he's found a really nice niche that I really like that he's working in.
Even
Trap,
like this last 10 year, like this last 10 years,
yeah,
maybe, is that kind of, yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep. Ever since kind of with The Visit and Split, how we kind of got back to just like
Right.
smaller budget, interesting kind of hooky premises. I really like what he's been doing. This one, I loved the first 2 acts. I don't know if either of you guys seen this?
Not yet.
I
I
haven't, no.
obviously I won't spoil anything, but the last act kind of goes to a place that I didn't expect it to, which I actually, when it was happening, I was like, "Oh, this is great." I did not know this was going to be happening. But I just felt like it didn't really deliver. There's like kind of the last 20 minutes, I think, kind of really gets overly goofy and kind of lost me a little bit. So I'm interested to watch it again, to see if the ending sticks a little better, because I loved that first hour and 15. I thought it was great. Josh Hartnett is awesome in it. I thought it was a very suspenseful, but like really funny as well. Like I think intention, like some people, will pick and poke at M. Night Shyamalan's movies and be like, oh, sometimes the performances are so goofy and the dialogue is bad. I think a lot of that, especially in like a movie like this, I think there is some intentional humor here that maybe people are mistaking it as like goofy, not on purpose. Like I think there is some just like broad humor moments in here that are meant to be funny. But yeah, I'm really excited to watch this one again. It was I wouldn't even say it was a pleasant surprise, because like I have high hopes for Shyamalan, but I really quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, the premise of that one sounded like fun, and you could kind of tell that Josh Hartnett was stepping up to the moment, where it's like he's kind of been brushed off to the side for quite a long time, like with the exception of Oppenheimer. Like that
He's
was
back.
kind of like his return, I guess, but this is him in a starring role, and it sounds like he really made something of it. It sounds like he found the right tone for it, because I heard a lot of praise for his performance, and in that kind of off-kilter style of dialogue that Shyamalan often brings to the table, it gives you a lot of latitude to do some kind of off-the-wall kind of shit, especially with him, like the way the character is positioned in the narrative. It's like I could imagine you could have a lot of fun with that. So I plan on watching it. I just haven't yet. But like if you were to like put like a ranking on it associated with like some of the other more recent Shyamalan movies, like would you put it like high end of things, or like middle of the road, or
I
lesser
think
Shyamalan?
I would say with his last decade of movies, I'd probably say it's, kind of in the middle of what he's been doing. I would probably say I like Split better. But I think I like this more than Knock at the Cabin. Probably liked it more than Glass also. I don't think he's like made a bad movie in the last 10 years. I know a lot of people really didn't like Old, but I actually kind of liked it.
Hmm.
So I would say, yeah, I would probably put this in the mid to upper of his last decade of output.
Okay.
What do you do you have a favorite Shyamalan?
Signs hands down for me. It's I mean, I haven't watched The Sixth Sense in quite a while. I do love Unbreakable. But Signs is like an all-timer. And it was a little bit of a formative movie as well. I think I was like, I don't know, like 12 years old or whatever when I saw it, 11, something like that. So, definitely I think my favorite. And for the record, I have no issues with the ending of Signs. I love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah, I think Signs would be mine too. I know for a minute there, Unbreakable was probably my favorite, but part of that probably had to do with the fact that I saw it in theaters, and Shyamalan was still very much like the new hot property going at the time.
Yeah.
But
The new
upon
Spielberg.
yeah, they really pushed that. The new Hitchcock, the new Spielberg, they really pushed that. I want to read. There's a book about the making of Lady in the Water that I would really love to read. I've heard it's a really good read, very insightful. You learn a lot about the man. But yeah, when I think we did Signs for the podcast for Catching Up on Cinema, Brad, I forget if you were involved in that. It may have been Kyle and I that did that one.
Yeah.
I think it was Kyle and I. But when we reviewed it, Frankie, it clicked, where it's like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, I think this is my favorite of his movies that I've seen, and I really haven't like laser focused on his filmography in quite some time. Like, I think even by the time of like The Village, I was starting to drop off pretty heavily.
Yeah.
But it does seem like he's on the comeback trail. How is his daughter in it, Brad? Because I know that his it's a family affair now. His one, I think he has two daughters, one of whom made a film, and one of whom has like a somewhat prominent role in Trap.
Yeah, I actually think he has 3 daughters.
Okay.
One is the filmmaker, one is the singer who sings and acts in Trap, and the other one, as far as I know, does not have any involvement in the film industry, but I'm sure he loves her just the same, as much as the other 2. I will say I thought his daughter was pretty good in this, and I will say she's in it a lot more than I was expecting. And I think you can, like her performance, like, okay, maybe it's not amazing in this movie, but I think you can overlook that almost entirely, because with Josh Hartnett taking his daughter to this concert and it kind of being a father-daughter relationship, I think there's some really cool like meta subtext of like M. Night Shyamalan making this movie with his daughter as a prominent character in it. So whether her performance is good or bad, I think it actually works really well for the film to have her in here.
Yeah, I could see that, like behind the scenes kind of subtext that plays into the film itself. Interesting. How about you, Frankie? Do you have any investment in Shyamalan, or is he just like whatever?
I mean, The Happening is amazing.
Okay. That tiger, man.
You know, the population of honeybees is really going down. We're really going to lose a lot of honeybees. We very nearly made a Box Mac Halloween special called The Mackening. It was gonna, because they kept worrying about the bees, and we call a box a bee of Mac, and so we were gonna, but the cheesy bees, they're declining in population. But I like Split a lot. Yeah, look, he's an artist, and artists misstep like crazy. I think it was a mistake to give him all the money in the world and to think that every time he tries to produce a movie, it's going to go well. I think that was a mistake. Although, during the era of DVD, maybe it was a safe bet, but no, I think they were banking on like thriller blockbusters with him, and that's just not ultimately what he was able to deliver. And now they've figured something else out, and it's, I think, a lot more exciting. I agree, for sure, with Brad.
Yeah, ever since he's been forced to rein his budgets in, he's gotten just so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the trick with a guy like that, for sure. But they didn't know he was that much of I don't know. that he wouldn't necessarily do the obvious thing all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of those imposed limitations probably are a boon to his process. Like just narrowing the focus ever so slightly.
He's one of those guys where, like, I mean, I don't know. Is his batting average worse than Ridley Scott's? I don't know. I don't think so. Probably. Like, Ridley Scott's a great filmmaker. He's made a lot of bad movies. Like, he's just made a lot of movies. Yeah. So, there was a period there where M. Night was making like one crapper after another, and it was like, oh, okay, can this guy just not nail it? Remember also, I don't know if he even makes movies anymore. What was his name? Was it Neil Blomkamp, the guy who did District 9? And, he looked like he was going to have a huge career. And then he kind of like, there were like 2 in a row that just didn't hit with anybody. The Matt Damon one was interesting.
Gran Turismo. He's back, baby.
Oh, yeah, he's doing Gran Turismo. Okay.
Yeah, he did Gran Turismo. And then he did a COVID movie that was like a micro budget film. I forget the name of it, but it looks
demonic.
Yeah. It looks cheap as all hell. Like, it looks incomprehensible. There might be like a personality defect with that guy. Like, he might be like difficult in the studio sense or something, because it seems like his output was never as agile as you would expect for somebody with as much hype and apparent talent as he seems to have. But just the sheer volume of proposed projects that were in his hands briefly only to be snatched away suggests there's something going on.
Remember he was going to do Halo? Remember that?
He was going to do Halo and Alien.
Yeah.
He did neither of those.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, look, this is the problem with like just because they made one good movie doesn't mean that they're right for every movie, and I think that's the story of M. Night as well. Like The Sixth Sense, just kind of, and then um, yeah, I think Signs. Was Signs a commercial success? I believe it was.
I
Yeah,
think so.
he had a few. He had a few major hits there. So
I think people were elevating him to like some like high level filmmaker.
Yeah.
And he's not. He makes fun genre movies, mid level. Like that's his zone, and I love that.
There's nothing wrong with being an airport novel guy.
Yeah.
Like there is a niche for that in the world of cinema. Like that's most of the movies I fucking watch, honestly. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Just, don't reach too far. Don't get ahead of your skis. And he's been humbled a few times, and it seems like he's doing just fine. Like Frankie, like you said, his average probably, if you look at the entirety of his body of work, it's probably pretty good, honestly.
It's like 50-50 or something. I don't know. And therefore, like it's a good enough batting average that every time he comes out with something, because he has hit really hard before, you're always interested, I think, to come back and be like, what did he make?
Yeah.
What did he do?
It's the Brett Ratner problem. Like, like Brad gets this reference, but Brett Ratner, for some reason, like this is before all the allegations and stuff, but Brett Ratner's always been my go-to reference for just vanilla filmmaking.
Yeah.
Just man who makes movies.
Director for hire, yeah.
Exactly. Just like there's no personal stamp or fingerprints on the thing that are evident. It's just product.
Yeah.
And Shyamalan is not that. He is a brand. He is an attraction. So, he's doing just fine. He's doing great.
Film lovers will probably always be kind of interested in him, because that risk-taking thing can pay dividends sometimes. And you never really know when it will,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good job throwing Shyamalan out there, Brad. We got a lot of mileage out of that.
Always a good topic for discussion. He's always a good topic for discussion.
Okay. Well, I will do one more pick for myself, and then I don't know how you guys are doing in terms of stamina or scheduling or whatever, but we can either do another round or head into the speed round. But I'll do my last pick here, and then we can go from there. Okay. So I have here a movie that was gifted to me by my fiance's brother. Good job. His name is Sander, by the way. It's one that'll be very familiar to you, Frankie, and I actually can't remember if it'll be familiar to you, Brad. But I have here in my hands a 4K edition. Never fucking expected this to happen. Of American Movie.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. 4K. What the fuck?
I know.
That means they actually did have the original negative, which is really cool. Which is Cannibal the Musical's whole problem, is they only have a Betacam master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, this does include Coven. Coven is included on the disc. I believe that was the case with the DVD and the Blu-ray as well, so that's not a new feature or anything. But yes, you do in fact have the option to watch Coven.
Borchardt sells it still on VHS, signed. You can. He'll do it in batches. He'll be like, hey man, right now you can take the opportunity. You can get up out of bed. You can make something out of yourself. You can order a copy of Coven right now, man. All you got to do is email this weird yahoo.com address that my assistant manages. You'll see it go by on social media. One time I tried it. I emailed it and they were like, sure, Frankie. And I never heard back.
Sure, Frank. It's like, oh, kick fucking ass. I got another check in the mail.
And sometimes, man, you try to cash that check, man, and it just goes down a hole, man, of a yahoo.com address. And sometimes you make it big, but you got to stand tall and try.
Yeah, I adore this movie.
I do too.
Mark Borchardt, Mike Shank, R.I.P. Miss him. Good, seemingly a good human, as far as I could tell.
He's the ultimate model for like every motivated person needs a Mike Shank. Like the Mike Shank type is essential, basically. Mm-hmm. The person who's willing to give up a lot of their free time to make your goals happen, and does so like eagerly. It's a really heartwarming that I think that relationship. That's why they put him on the cover of the movie, man. It's like that relationship in so many ways is the movie.
It really is. And I think you're onto something there, Frankie, because I want to say that if you dig deep enough, that is the case for quite a lot of impactful and memorable people that exist in the media landscape or in the world of art or athletics or what have you. There's usually an advocate or somebody out there who goes out on a limb, gives quite a lot of themselves to get that person into the spotlight, into the position that they need in order to develop the reputation that they ultimately achieve. There always seems to be something like that. Like nobody is formed from nothing.
An audience of one or something. And I think with the arts, like it can't be an audience of zero. Jason, that's wicked, man.
That's wicked, man.
Love it. Love that movie. And then that director, what's his name? The director,
Chris Smith.
Yeah, he went on to do the Andy and Me documentary with Jim Carrey, and I think quite a few other things. He's obviously a very talented filmmaker.
He did the Mr. McMahon series, I think, on Netflix.
I need to get on that.
You do, Frankie. You really do. It's despite the runtime, it's actually somewhat slight. Like maybe it's because I'm overly involved in the history of pro wrestling or something, but they devote a little too much screen time to just educating the viewer about wrestling. And for me,
that was my fear. I was like, I kind of know a lot about. Yeah, right.
It's old hat for me, and presumably you as well. So it feels like a little bit of a waste of time, like a time sink. And then also the timing of the release doesn't help, where it's like the allegations came out while they were in the midst of filming. So it's half of a complete thought, but the slickness of the production and the access to Vince McMahon is worthwhile. It's just don't expect it to be like a mind-blowing insight into the unknowable entity that is Vince McMahon.
There's a Tarantino documentary that came out 5 or 6 years ago or something. It was called like The First 8 or something. And it was just a kind of an A&E biography type profile on Quentin Tarantino. But you can tell that movie was edited to be like, and Harvey Weinstein was an essential part of who Quentin Tarantino is. And then like everything hit right around that time. And like they had to, I think there's like awkward animated sequences where they're like, and that's when Harvey almost fucked the whole thing up.
Oh my God.
They had like squeeze it. It's just knowing how things are edited, knowing how things are produced. It's very obvious that it's over the top because it's not in the interview content, Anyway,
they slipped it in at the last minute to make a narrative.
Too much like that.
It didn't feel too much like that. But I'll really my only thing I would put out there is that don't expect it to be a hugely educational experience. Like it's not going to teach you much, but it is still a very entertaining watch, especially if you're invested in the product that's cool as I am. So worth a look.
Yeah.
But I haven't watched this one just yet. But I'm really excited to introduce it to my fiance because I quote it all the time. And there was a spell in my life when I was unemployed where this movie and Ed Wood were just things that I would watch all the time just to try to reach for inspiration or something. And I'm clearly not in the same place today. So the movie means a little something different to me now, but I adore this movie in every sense. And I'm really excited to rewatch it. But Brad, what'd you have?
I was going to say Chris Smith, he's been doing a lot of Netflix docs. He's kind of in their pocket now, for better or worse. He's been putting out multiple projects per year. If you actually look at his filmography, he did Madeline McCann docuseries. He did the Fire Festival Netflix movie.
Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, good for him that he's still, getting regular work, which, I guess
so good.
If you're going to be a documentarian nowadays, you kind of almost have to be in one of the streamers' back pocket because that's kind of where everything is going with docs nowadays. But
I mean, they commission so much docu-series content, just they churn this shit out. It can't keep up with all this stuff. And also it's there's a pipeline of there's podcast, docu-series, feature film. It's you find the initial interest, you capitalize on it, and then you capitalize on it one more time. What's it? I mentioned this yesterday when I did my test recording for the Catching Up on Blu-ray. There's a Christy Martin feature film coming out soon that Sydney Sweeney is starring in it, and I'm pretty sure there was a lot of podcast information about her life story, but I know for a fact there was a Netflix documentary as well. So it's bam, bam. It's like a 3-step process of some sort where it's there's the initial catalyst, and then let's capitalize it once, and then let's capitalize it one more time with a narrative film of some sort. Interesting stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, American movie. I'm looking forward to it. I never in a million years would have expected it to pop up on fucking 4K. It's probably still going to look like shit, but who fucking knows?
They did a 1080 a couple years ago that I have. I don't have the 4K though.
Yeah, this is pretty new. I think it came out within the past month or so, but it popped up on my radar.
It's almost like a gesture. That's almost more like, this doesn't need to be in 4K, but we really like this movie, and this movie really deserves a Library of Congress style preservation, you know. But one disappointment is it's shot in 4:3. So, yeah, you know, but that's part of what makes it. I first saw that movie senior year of high school, and it was it was an English teacher who had it on tape, and he was like, you like making movies? You might like this. It's about making movies. And I went home and watched it, and I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that it was like a Christopher Guest style mockumentary. The lines were too fucking funny. I mean, it was you know, I'd like to drink my soda, please. And Mom, I'm doomed. Or when he's doing the whiteboard and he's like, fuck this, man. I'm sorry for erasing that. But anyway, like, it just seems so, and I'd been watching a lot of Christopher Guest and Curb Your Enthusiasm and Sacha Baron Cohen. And I was like totally like zoned into what funny improv, like character work looks like. And I was like, I'm absolutely convinced this is not a real human being. And then as the movie went on and it was melancholy, that's kind of what actually turned me onto it. It was like, oh, this is like a real person with children. And like, he just has kind of like a, but it's interesting. Somebody recently contacted me and they were like, hey, I saw your video about feeling a little bit disillusioned with Lloyd Kaufman and his leadership style. And what about Mark Burchard? Do you ever feel like, are you disappointed in him for not making Northwestern when Uncle Bill left him $40,000 or whatever? And I was like, well, look, it's like decades later now, it's like 30 years later. And what I see of, aside from ridiculous, attempts to sell a VHS that he has difficulty doing. What I see is a guy whose daughter helps him make movies, who's still active with his craft, who seems to be sober as far as I can tell, who's putting out a lot of, there was like an interview from 10 years ago that dropped recently in full. It was like a very inspiring kind of motivational interview from Mark, as only Mark can speak, from that slightly ascendant place that I think he occupies. I don't know if he's on the spectrum or what. It would seem so. But he's just tapped into a different frequency than the rest of us. And he was talking at length about like, before you feel ashamed or guilt for being different than everybody else, stand tall, because there's other different people too, and they might follow you, is just that basic life lesson. But it was like, he embodies that in so many ways. He's, the guy who is really fucking weird in his family. With a brother that, that one brother in the movie that just has no time for him,
and the dead eyes. Yeah. Just thinks he's a dipshit loser that's never going to amount to
factory or something. Worked in a factory or something, because these movies have no value.
Yeah, like complete lack of support, like zero confidence in his own brother. It's like, that's fucked, man.
Yeah, he's saying Mark should not be Mark.
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
the family aspect of the movie is very challenging. Like it's very heavy stuff, where it's like there's the memes and stuff, there's the quotables and stuff, but then there's the human element of it that, as any skilled documentarian should be able to tap into. It's there, and it's
great.
It gets real dark at times, like that Thanksgiving or whatever is pretty rough. And then every time you get those shots, like of him like dealing with his ex-wife, I presume, and his kids and stuff, it's that grim reminder that it's like this guy is reaching for the stars, and also this is going on.
Yeah,
like he's at the editing bay in the college after hours with his kids sleeping on the floor with him and stuff.
Yeah,
which is why, like what you're saying, Frankie, about him never having finished Northwestern, it's like maybe it's fine. Like maybe he looked around himself and saw like, oh shit, I got kids, man.
Well, I see now, I see a daughter who is probably 30. Yeah. Or 35 or something. And she's hanging around her dad. And I'm thinking like the best thing you ever made was that kid, man. And hopefully your other kids are involved as well. But if you're out there shooting cool short movies that nobody's ever going to watch and you're doing it with your 35-year-old daughter who helps you manage email or whatever, like that was the thing to be super passionate about. You just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, life is pretty cool sometimes.
Love it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to rewatch it. But you guys want to do one more round, or would you like to just head into the speed round and call it good?
Well, I have such a proclivity to talk so long about every little thing that the speed round might not be that speedy. So
it never is, Frankie. It's fine. It's usually a half an hour, honestly.
Is it really?
Yes. Like it's the ironically named speed round.
So probably the speed round is a safe bet because it won't be so speedy.
All right. Well, who wants to go first then? So we'll do this one at a time, but just like run through everything you got, and feel free to just comment as we go. Like if somebody
we go A B C A B C. You want to just do it that way?
We can go either in rotation or like all of yours, all of Brad's, all of mine.
Yeah, I'll fly through these.
Okay. Go for it, Frankie.
You guys ever see Kenny versus You guys ever see Kenny versus Spenny?
I know, actually. It's been a while though.
Yeah, so Canadian reality show, if you can call it that, sort of the era of Jackass, but so much deeper, so much more special. It really bordering on fiction narrative. So the premise is it's two guys who can, every episode is a different competition. Like one, who can win a 10-mile race, who can prevent himself from having a boner the longest, who can blow the biggest fart, who can win a boxing match. And what's so genius about it is the characters. So one guy is kind of a Machiavellian cheater because there's almost no rules in the thing anyway, because it's really just the crew is keeping score. And the other guy thinks of himself as like a moralizing, like superior person, but he, as a result, loses every competition, almost like 90% of the competitions he loses. And then what makes it, so there's really well set up characters. What makes it further genius is that almost no competition goes the way you would expect it to. So if it's like, who can win a 10-mile race? I'll spoil this one. Instead of it being, like they're both at the track trying to win a 10-mile race, Kenny, the Machiavellian one, he decides to fake his mom's death, and because he knows he can't win a 10-mile race, and his mom's in on it and stuff, and he has to like plant the seeds, show Spenny, oh sorry, I had to show up late because my mom's at the hospital, and he has to have his mom at the hospital, and then he's like, he has his siblings call Spenny to be like, hey, like, it looks like we lost Sophie today, and he starts like, so the whole episode becomes about planning a funeral, and and there's a third act where Spenny figures they send him to somebody else's funeral on the day of the race so that he won't be there at the race. And he figures it out, and he has a shit fit in his car, and he drives as fast as he can to the track while Kenny is just slowly walking the track, winning. And and Spenny like outruns him, and it's like this kind of victorious moment. Or they're like, who can win a boxing match? Kenny traps him in a cedar closet for an entire weekend so that he won't attend the boxing match. Just traps him in there. He gives him like something to shit in and some bananas or something. And he goes on vacation. Yeah. And just on and on and on and on. Genius. It was one where it was who can win a rat race. They had to both get rats and race rats. And instead Kenny kidnapped Spenny's mom. And they had to make a trade for, so anyway, truly one of the funniest things that's ever been created. I can't, I mean, this is special stuff, Trevor. If you've not seen Kenny versus Spenny.
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. It's, and the South Park guys found it on Canadian television. They picked it up. It was on Comedy Central for a short period of time. Who can blow the biggest fart is one of the funniest things you'll ever see in your life. But anyway, these DVDs, I'm showing all of them off. They're all out of print because the show kept getting picked up on different Canadian, like it was on like Showcase, and it was on, I don't know, this Canadian shit. GSN. Oh, it was on the Game Show Network at one point. So there's some episodes that are like hardcore R-rated, like who can keep a shit in his pants the longest. And then there's ones that are like very tame, like who can stay awake the longest, which has its own character moments. So I've got all of those, and these go for hundreds on these days because they're just completely out of print. And there was a Comedy Central release. There was one Comedy Central release. It was season 4, so it's kind of like the one American release was that one. I think it was like half a season too, actually. So these are not to be missed. Kenny versus Spenny.
Very cool.
He's been trying to upload 4K versions of those on YouTube forever, and he keeps like Kenny himself is trying to do it, but he keeps getting struck down. Speaking of one of the funniest things ever, do you guys know this movie Hamlet 2?
Yes. I actually I was invited to an early premiere of that. I have a rubberized like wristband thing that was given to me when I was waiting to go into the theater. Somehow my friend got advance tickets for it.
I just think it's one of the funniest fucking things. The way that first of all, it follows a narrative format that I love, the sort of Waiting for Guffman, King and I thing, where in the third act there's a show. So there's been they've been trying to produce a show for 2 acts, and then you finally get to see this show. But the extent to which it parodies like a self-centered, self-obsessed, unhinged man, who has like this totally discordant self-concept. Like he thinks that he's in Dangerous Minds or one of these movies that's about like troubled youth, but really like his school is like perfectly affluent, and like there's a student who's of Mexican descent, and he asks him what his name is, and he says, "My name's Haywood Jablomi," and he thinks the guy's name is Haywood the whole movie. And he goes to his parents' house and he's like, "I just want to talk about your gangbanger son, Haywood Jablomi," and they're like, "Actually, we do quite well." And
yeah, it's not quite a gangster's paradise.
It's so funny. And then the third act delivers. That's the important thing with a movie like that. That third act has to deliver.
Yeah, the big show at the end.
The big show has to do it. Okay, so these are DVDs I've never watched. Okay. Have you ever been to a convention, a comic book convention, and bought bootleg like fan films? So these are like some Batman ones and some Star Wars ones.
Cool.
Yeah, and I, someday, like, okay, I don't know if you can see, but look at the back of this fucking thing.
Oh my God. Is there a dancing baby on there?
And they're probably all on YouTube.
Is a Batman Dead End in there?
Batman Dead End. Let's see.
That's the Batman versus
Alien
versus
this is it.
It is in there.
Yeah.
I just threw that out there for funsies.
Yep, Batman Dead End. Also includes the short films The Death of Batman and the 45-minute live-action Batman Beyond Year One.
Ooh. And
making of Batman. There's a making of Batman Dead End on here.
Very cool. Is Troopers on the Star Wars one? I know that was like an early.
That's a classic. I remember
classic fan film.
I remember right before Attack of the Clones came out, Kevin Smith hosted a primetime special where they featured Flash animations and it was like all kind of pre-meme culture.
Yeah, Brad, have you heard of these things that we're referencing here?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Batman Dead End was a fan film where it's Batman versus Alien versus Predator, and it has like pretty good production values. Like they got like really good costumes for it. And then Troopers is like a cops parody, but with stormtroopers.
Okay.
It's not here. I think that they were
that.
It's pretty famous.
This is the holiday special. So we have the holiday special on DVD.
Nice.
Because no comic book convention would be complete unless you bought the holiday special.
Yeah, that's what you do.
This one is, Short Films Volume 1 is what I've got for Star Wars, featuring Duality and 20 other short films.
20? Wow.
Holy shit.
It's packed.
Nice.
Matrix Jedi. This looks like fucking trash.
I'm sure it is.
This is worth something. Not monetarily, mind you.
Yeah,
It's worth mining, I think, maybe.
Yeah. No, stuff like that is very charming. I actually bought sometimes when I go to Hawaii to visit family, they have like domestically produced DVDs and stuff that I'll like see at the grocery store and stuff, and I'll just buy it. And it's usually like grossly overpriced. But I bought like a locally produced Hawaiian television series called Blood of the Samurai. It's hot garbage, but like everybody's speaking fucking pidgin, and it's like in grandma's neighborhood. It's like
amazing.
This is charming as all hell. I love this.
Sometimes it's just nice to own something that's not meant to be owned in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the appeal. I mean, I was talking to Brad earlier today about a little movie by the name of Bone Sickness, which has long been a meme between me and my social circle. Like it's this weird like ultra indie zombie movie called Bone Sickness that has long been thought of as like the worst fucking thing that any of me or my friends have ever seen, and I own it on DVD. I just stumbled across it in a secondhand store.
Isn't it so
and
much
it is
more
most
special?
certainly not meant to be owned. Like it,
Yeah, it's
this
a
is
lot
not
more
meant to
special.
be consumed.
It's a lot more special to own it on DVD than it is to just like have an MP4 of it, or
Yeah, and I showed Brad a screenshot of the back of the box. No less than 3 typos on the back of the box. That's how you can tell this was handcrafted.
Perfect.
Yeah, when you sent me that, it was like, "Where's Waldo? Where are all the typos?" I had fun.
Yeah, I found
them
3,
all.
and then maybe 1 grammatical error on top of that. It's chef's kiss. It's beautiful.
Real quick, I just wanted to share my maybe like 7 years ago or so, Nina, my wife, started me off on Laserdisc because I had like said it out loud. I was like, maybe I would like to collect Laserdisc. And so this was the starter pack. She got me E.T. at the time. You just gotta love the format, the art format there.
Yeah.
But like the back, right? Doesn't that just look like you want to watch some E.T.?
Laserdisc it's like the premium brand when it comes to exhibiting your collection. Like facing a Laserdisc out is like the most spectacular adornment you can place in a room.
I need better like a better showcase for them. She got me Clerks, and you know what, this was like the beginning of his whole let's do a lot of special features thing, because there's a audio commentary on this and expanded scenes. So I think you can see the scene where Dante's killed on this very Laserdisc.
Yeah, that was the early days of that. Like
exactly.
supplemental material and stuff.
Forbidden Planet.
Oh, nice one.
Ooh. Forbidden Planet. And then I've actually watched this several times because Gloria likes the movie. Peter Pan.
Disney Peter Pan. Yeah, Peter Pan. Good one.
I mean, look at the back there. I mean, this is Disney as all hell.
That's nice.
And then I only had and then I'll cede the floor. But since you asked about the holidays, do you guys remember when the Hateful Eight was doing the roadshow, the 35 mil projection or the 70 mil projection? They handed out cool roadshow like booklets at the time, and I've still got mine.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was just at the theater, and I decided to keep it. And you know what?
Just
cool. in the spirit of like, oh, cool, movie memorabilia. You know, this is a lovely little token. Just such a great idea to be like, let's project it. In the few theaters that still have film projection, which at that time, this was what, like 2014. It was like they're almost gone. They said let's do it before it's too late, and then they gave you a nice little thing, and there was an intermission. You remember? And they did like an expanded version of the overture. So like you sat there listening to the overture of the movie for like 10 minutes, and then it finally rolled into the film, and then there was an intermission. It was just a really great little experience. I went with John and with Nina.
Oh, awesome.
And I've got that to remember it by. So I thought I'd show it off.
I've got a funny story with that. I kind of wish you hadn't brought that up, Frankie, because that is one of my biggest regrets in my entire life, is that I didn't get to see that. So what happened was me and my buddy were planning on going, and I don't want to pass any blame around, but his girlfriend at the time said she wanted to come, and she made us late. I don't want to pass the blame, but she's not in the picture anymore, so I don't feel bad about it. But anyway, we were late because she was getting ready or something. So we were like racing. It was like an hour away because, there was nothing near us. We were racing to this theater, and we got stuck in traffic, and we didn't make it. And so we were down there. So I guess we'll just go to the regular version showtime. So we just saw the regular, not roadshow version. But we were walking into the theater, and I saw that book, that roadshow book. It was just lying on the floor. I kind of looked at it and looked around, and there was nobody around. I'm like, I guess I'm going to take this. Absolutely. So I didn't see the roadshow, but I actually do have somewhere in a box somewhere, but I do have that roadshow booklet somewhere.
You remember that movie almost didn't get made because the script leaked, and he was very pissed off that the script leaked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he might have rewritten it from scratch as a result. Or something that, or he just charged for it. I don't remember. He was like, it was canceled. He was pissed off.
There was, I can't remember if he did it, but there was like rumors, or maybe he did do it, where he was going to film or like do just like a reading of it, like almost like a play, just like script reading, like on stage with some actors.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that happened and then it got produced or the whole story, but yeah, kind of an interesting story how that came to screen.
Yeah. That's my speed run.
Okay. Well, hey Brad, how about we go with you next? What do you got on deck?
So I got a few movies I got here for the holidays. This one was given to me by my fiance's parents, future in-laws. I got Godzilla -1 on 4K,
Hey.
4K.
which I'm very excited to revisit it. Yeah, I remember not liking it as much as Shin Godzilla, but Shin Godzilla got better for me on a rewatch as well. So I'm actually excited to watch that one again.
I discussed that movie one time, and Trevor edited it.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Frankie beat me to it. Yeah, I edited the Red Cow clip for Godzilla -1 because I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Always have been, always will be. And I had to jump on that one, and I think I did a pretty good job with it. I gave
You
the
put
world
my head on Godzilla. Yeah,
yeah, the gif of Frankie's head on Godzilla.
Yeah, Trevor, I don't think we talked about that movie together, but you guys did an episode on your own, right? You and Kyle, or I think
No, I that was one I did with a guest host, Richie from the Super Media Bros
That's
podcast.
right.
I think he's moved on. He's done with Super Media Bros, but he's doing something called Cult Macabre. Good guy. I've talked to him a handful of times. He's an excellent podcaster, way better than me. We had a really good time talking about Godzilla -1.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have the 4K of that one as well, like the super duper special Japanese edition of that one.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
But I haven't rewatched it just yet. So I'm excited to revisit that one. I think it'll hold up just fine.
Seamless transition, Trevor, a movie that you and I did talk about together because I remember it. I have Alien Romulus on 4K, which I liked quite a bit. There are two glaring flaws in it, and they are both horrible artistic choices. I hate them so much, but everything else in the movie I think is so good that it's like I can't think of a movie in recent memory where like two, not minor things, but literally like just there's two issues with the movie and they bring it down so much, but everything else I love. So that's one that I think I'll watch, and I don't know if I'll ever grow to appreciate it more, but it's certainly a very entertaining and watchable movie.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, Trevor, we might have done this one too. I can't remember. The Fall Guy. Did we do this one?
We
together?
did. Yeah.
Yes.
Frankie, you're probably not aware of this, but for some reason, 87 North or 8711, that production studio, basically, if they make a movie, Brad recruits me to review their stuff with him.
Yep.
I don't know. I've been pigeonholed as the action guy on the Cinema Speak podcast. So if David Leitch makes a movie, basically I have to show up to review it.
Awesome. Yep. You're the 87 North guy. And you did see the extended cut of this, right? You said it was mostly like more just like gags and stuff. Like
it feels like a Judd Apatow extended cut.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is just more, not better. Where it's like, this is just stuff that would have been cut, should have been cut, but hey, it's longer now. Mm-hmm. And now the music cues are fucked because the timing of the edit is not tailored as not calibrated the way it was for the theatrical release.
Yeah. Next up, I got a movie. One of the only, actually, with Alien Romulus, along with Alien Romulus, the only movie this year I've seen twice in theaters, and that was Dune Part 2. I did see this one twice. Well, it was because I made a solemn vow when we reviewed this, because the first watch didn't really take for me. And I actually kind of still sort of prefer Dune Part 1. But when we reviewed it, I was like, I don't know, this watch didn't take. I'm going to make a solemn vow to watch it in theaters again and hope that it takes. And it took a little more. I'm hoping this 4K watch, I'm going to just have to force feed this thing up to a 5 out of 5.
Do you think maybe watching it as one film would be helpful?
Maybe. I don't know. It might, but when I watched it the first time, I did rewatch the first Dune like immediately before going to see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might have actually been duned out a little bit when I first watched it.
Are you a fan of Dune generally? Like, how do you feel about all the other crappy adaptations before? Maybe you like the David Lynch one.
Really, the only other adaptation I've seen is the Lynch film.
Yeah,
and
there's
I've
that
never read
sci-fi
any of the novels.
miniseries from I don't know, 2000 or something, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I love the craftsmanship. I think it's like, it looks amazing. For some reason, just, I don't know, part 2 just doesn't totally take for me. But again, it's like such a beautiful looking movie. And I know I'm going to watch it again before part 3 or Messiah comes out or whatever. So like, obviously that one is going to, I mean, I might even try and force feed it onto my top 10 of the year list in the next few weeks. So I might be watching this soon.
Wow, you're letting me self-promote quite a lot here, Brad, because if memory serves, Frankie, I think I also edited the Dune 2 clip for Red Cow RJ.
Oh yeah, you have that lovely thumbnail of me as a Fremen.
Yeah. I also I really liked Dune Part 2. In fact, I think I favored it over the first one just because of the momentum of the storytelling, and also just the way Denis Villeneuve, the way he does his editing, like the way he hides his narrative devices in plain sight, and like the timing of his reveals and stuff is always like, it's like a magic trick almost. It's really special kind of stuff, and just the gravity of the narrative when you get to the final stages of the narrative, like after the blue juice, basically. There's a certain like propulsiveness to the narrative in Dune Part 2 that's like, oh, I feel very weird about where things are going, and I think the characters do too. Like there's a inevitability to the progression of the story that has a interesting, like, positive and negative vibe to it that is very challenging, but it worked really well for me. Also, it's kind of neat that it ends with a knife fight. So the first one, though, so a lot of knife fighting. There's a lot of symmetry between the two movies.
I like that idea of inevitability in storytelling, because so often the uncertainty is the thing that you're selling to the audience. They're hanging on because they're not sure what's going to happen. But there's definitely those stories where you're like, there's no way this ends any other way, and I'm locked in to see that be realized.
Yeah, and there's a certain element of the knife fight at the end of Dune Part 2 that, like, you could spin it in such a way where it's like the one piece of the puzzle that it's actually not certain if everything will work out, where it's like, if you can physically achieve this one step of the process, everything else will fall in line. But this you have to do yourself, and it's not certain if you can do it. It's going to take guts and bravery and physicality in order to accomplish it. And so it actually does have some drama associated with it, a little bit of an uncertainty, but the build up around it's really impressive stuff. Also the music, I like the score for the second one quite a lot better personally.
The sound design is amazing.
Yeah, there's that growling piece of music that plays when he goes, I think, south, like the direction he's not supposed to go. Like when he makes that choice, there's a particular piece of music that plays. It's really cool. Brad, where are you trying to get there?
I want to highlight here. I mean, it says on the back over an hour of bonus features, which isn't bad, but for a movie like this, like,
that's slim.
Actually, that's not that great for a movie.
Give me the good
3
stuff.
hours. Yeah.
The hell, man.
Yeah. And my last pick, this one was a gift from my fiance Lizzie. She got me Terrifier 3 on 4.
Oh shit.
Yeah, just in time.
Is it holographic or something?
Yeah, so I don't know. I actually have to ask her because I don't know where. I don't know if I can even get it to.
It's hard to pick up on the camera, but I'm sure it looks awesome in person.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like his axe, kind of. You can kind of there you can.
Okay, I think I can make it out.
But yeah, I should rewatch this within the next couple of days to get the Halloween watch when I first saw it and the Christmas season watch in. So it's like the new Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a 2-for-1 special. You can watch it on both holidays now.
Yeah, the seasonal double dip. Frankie, do you do Terrifier? Any interest?
I've only ever seen the first one. I own the second one on VHS inexplicably.
Oh, cool.
Because I encountered it.
The cover art for it is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. I saw somebody suckered me into watching the first one. They were like, "You got to see this," and it was just a very. there were no surprises.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, like I thought maybe we were going to learn something about this clown that would be interesting, but no, he's just a killer clown. It's almost like exactly what people want Joker to be, ironically, because Terrifier 3 came out around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll always tell the story about how the main actress, not the main actress, but the lady who gets cut in half,
that gets bone tomahawked.
Yeah. She was the lead actress in Return to Nukem High, and I was on set with her. I was shooting some BTS stuff for that, for a documentary that was made about Lloyd, and I hung out with her, and she was really cool. She was really nice, and then I saw her.
She was really cool.
Yeah, she was really cool. That clown shouldn't have done that to her.
Well, I would say check out the other two, because I would say one is probably the weakest of the bunch.
Yeah.
Although I would say, to sing her praises, I do think that still probably is my favorite kill of the franchise.
Yeah, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How would you rank 3, Brad? Like, what's your order of the trilogy?
I liked it a little less than 2, but I will say it did fix the issue of 2 going on for an insanely long amount. Like, didn't feel like, even though this one I think is still over 2 hours.
It is. They're both long, but 2 is that last act is like, what are we doing here?
The last act of 2 is pretty rough, but I still would probably put 2 a little higher. I like his sidekick better in that one, the little girl clown.
The little girl.
I like their dynamic a little better than the lady in this one that he teams up with, but they're pretty close.
Okay. Yeah, I think I like 3 best, actually. But it does get a theater bump, because I actually got to see that one sitting in the theater with Kyle, with my regular co-host on the podcast. Like, it'd been a really long time since he'd been living in the same state as me, so just to be able to go out to the theater with him was kind of a simple joy. And also we saw it with a pretty fun crowd. Like, it's funny because it was all like college aged girls, like women. And he and I are just like the 2 dudes in the middle of the room. It's like, what the hell is going on here? But it was pretty fun. Like, everybody was pretty engaged, and I think as a movie, just as a piece of cinema, I feel like Damien Leone as a filmmaker he's been learning, he's been improving, and he's really good at listening to the comments. Like he seems tapped into his audience. Like, he does seem to listen to complaints that people issue. So he, as far as I can tell, he's just going to keep making these movies, and I don't see a reason to stop.
Good for him.
I'm glad somebody figured out how to be successful in the film industry.
Like, maybe listen, maybe make improvements, maybe make changes.
Be available for correction, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I will head into the speed round for myself. I don't have that much, and I'll try to be quick because I know we've been going pretty long here, boys. But I have here 2 more movies that were gifted to me this Christmas, both of which came from my fiance's family. I have here from the Criterion Collection, Police Story 1 and 2. Brad, you have this one, right?
I do. That's a very nice set.
Okay, I haven't opened it yet, but I know both of these movies very well. I saw them in the VHS days. But Frankie, you a Jackie Chan guy at all?
Yeah, I mean, everything I've seen from Jackie Chan, I love. So yeah, is that a collection?
It's Police Story 1 and 2.
Oh, Police Story 1 and 2. Yep.
Yeah. And it's from Criterion Collection, so I imagine they cleaned them up they polished them all nice. And Police Story 1 is a certified classic. The House of Glass finale is something that people who haven't even seen the movie know what I'm referencing usually. Police Story 2, I only really remember the playground sequence, honestly. I remember it being an inferior film in general, but it's a Jackie Chan movie from the 1980s. It's not all bad.
He's incredible.
It can't all be bad. Yeah, he's incredible. He's still making movies, by the way. He has a panda rescue movie that I think just came out this year, where it's about him protecting the pandas and doing martial arts in between. I don't know if that one will make it into theaters in my neck of the woods. It probably will, because we tend to get a lot of those movies in my neck of the woods. So maybe I'll go see that.
You're so lucky. You're so lucky.
I am. I'm spoiled. We get a lot of Chinese and Korean and Indian movies out here. Zodiac, the David Fincher film, which I think I've oversold this to my fiance.
Great. It's great.
Yeah, I've always referred to this movie as like hypnotic, where it's like if you were to like be scrolling through channels and you flick by it, you would stop and you just watch it because it just has that way of pulling you in. Just remarkable filmmaking. It just has some special sauce to it, some special element to it that's just utterly compelling.
Yeah, Trevor. And it's mysterious without being like misleading, or there's a certain like logic to David Fincher films in general.
Yeah.
And that one really nails it. And I believe it was yeah. I just Googled it. Like, wasn't it shot on digital, which at the time was unusual. He was like a pioneer of like, why don't I just shoot this shit on digital?
Yeah.
Primarily using the Thompson Viper film stream camera.
Whoa.
I don't know what that is.
Although I don't either, but it sounds fancy.
Some slow motion murder sequences were filmed on traditional high speed film cameras because probably in 2007 they did not have like super slow mo digital cameras.
Yeah, probably a technical limitation.
But, yeah.
Brad, what was it you were trying to get at?
Trevor, sorry. That doesn't have the director's cut on it, does it? That's just the theatrical?
Disc 2 Blu-ray director's cut.
Oh, okay. The Blu-ray. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. 4K is the director's cut. Theatrical.
I actually wasn't aware there was a director's cut of this one.
Yeah, I think that's the version I've seen the most because that's what the Blu-ray copy I have is.
Oh,
so I couldn't even tell you the differences, to be honest. But I think they're pretty minimal. But
okay, well, my fiance has never seen this. I've sold this, and for some reason, Boogie Nights are like two movies that she's like really excited to watch because I talk about them very often. So I've probably oversold this one to her, but now I own it. I didn't previously. It's on 4K now. Recently debuted on the format, so there's my excuse to check it out. Brad already mentioned this one, but The Fall Guy.
Nice. You have the slipcover.
Yeah, I have the slipcover. This was a Black Friday, like less than $10 sale thing, where it's just like, sure, I'll own The Fall Guy. Why the fuck not? Same with Violent Night, which Brad and I most certainly reviewed together because I believe it's also an 87 North film.
You got
this was also a sub $10 purchase around the Black Friday time of the year. Also rewatched that one. It holds up pretty well. Actually better than The Fall Guy, although that might be a consequence of me watching the extended cut just for the novelty factor of ingesting that for the first time. And yeah, Violent Night was pretty fun in the theater and at home. And Twilight of the Warriors, Walled In. This is a Hong Kong film in the traditional Hong Kong sense, with the style of action and whatnot. Kenji Tanigaki, a Japanese fellow who often works in Hong Kong, did the choreography for this one. And it has like an all-star cast of players across like 3 generations of Hong Kong cinema. You can see Sammo Hung is on the cover there. He's an old timer. He's a contemporary of Jackie Chan's, if not, I think he's a couple years older actually. He's pretty fun in this one. He gets to be a good bad guy. This one's pretty fun. I think it's most easily digested if you go into it knowing that it's based on a Chinese comic book, because the style of action is a little over the top and it may be a little confusing if you weren't aware of the fact that it's like, oh, this is based on the equivalent of basically like a superhero comic. So like everybody has kind of like special powers that they don't really talk about, but you're just expected to just accept that that's the reality of the fiction of the story. The finale of this one, something about this choreographer, he has a knack for 4-on-1 fight sequences. Because in the Kenshin movies, the Rurouni Kenshin movies, Brad, that I have talked about endlessly, the end of that third one also was a 4-on-1. And he just seems to have a good mind for putting together, like giving showcase moments for everybody involved with that many bodies moving on screen at the same time. And the finale of this one is very much the same. Probably not executed quite as well, but still very well executed. It's a really fun last 10-15 minutes of a pretty well-rounded movie in general. Very handsome production, by the way. It takes place in Kowloon City, which, Frankie, I don't know if you've ever seen photos of the Kowloon walled city, but it's like a remarkable structure. It's been demolished, but Bloodsport was filmed there. Like the the walking around scenes before the kumite and stuff. Really just has an interesting look to it. The Deus Ex, one of those games, I think the architecture was inspired by it. And then last one I have here is We Were Soldiers, which is a Mel Gibson headlined movie, also debuting on 4K for the first time. It's about the opening of the American involvement in the Vietnam War. I have a fascination with the Vietnam War because my dad was in it. So I grew up with a lot of stories about it. And so, like, I don't know, you end up consuming a lot of media trying to, like, wrap your head around, like, what that was, kind of. And this movie it's an okay Vietnam War movie. It's not, like, truly exceptional, but it is emotionally effective in, like, the last half hour or so.
Does Gibson have a creative role on it besides acting?
Randall Wallace directed it. He also wrote Braveheart, and I think he may have wrote a couple of other Mel Gibson movies, and maybe
so
directed
probably
him.
Probably they had a working relationship because the old South Park joke of like, say what you want about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch knows story structure. Like the guy knows how to tell a story.
That's been a running gag on my podcast. Me and Kyle actually has had us review quite a lot of Mel Gibson movies, and every single conversation has to open with the caveat, like, yes, Mel Gibson's a bad person, seemingly, but he's a magnetic screen presence and seems to know a lot about storytelling. And that's why we're all talking about his movie today. Not because we're honoring the man, we're honoring the work.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, I agree. He really does know how to make a fucking movie. It's really frustrating.
Trevor, your Letterboxd review for this movie, you said the sequence involving an injured Brian T is perhaps the most grisly and memorable in the film. Is that the one where the guy gets like napalm on him or set on fire or something like that? And he's in a helicopter.
It's the friendly fire. It's the friendly fire incident. Yeah, he gets napalm on his shins. Yes. And Barry Pepper tries to pick him up, and the flesh slides off of his legs. And apparently, like, my dad actually witnessed things of this nature, like exactly this. And I remember being in the room watching this movie with him, and he was like, nope. He just like noped out of the room. And there's just the filmmaking around that sequence is particularly grisly and genuine. And also Brian T, like he has like 2 scenes in the movie up to that point. He's barely a character, but he's just enough of a character that you like feel real bad for the guy. And also there's a couple of like really emotionally effective moments towards the end of the movie, where one in particular is like one of those classic Mel / manly man movie moments where like the fighting's over and the reporters are trying to talk to him. He's just like dead behind the eyes, and then he walks behind a hill and he thinks he's alone and he starts to sob. And then he notices that like Barry Pepper's there, and then he's like, well, I'm fine. but like, it's all facial acting. It's all just physical acting. There's no dialogue or anything, but there's just something about the way he sells that, like the bottling up and the like unintentional release of emotion, and then trying to suck it all back in.
He knows how to tell a story, even through performance, right?
He knows how to tell a story. Okay. Well, that was all the movies that I acquired since the Black Friday period of the calendar. So now's, I guess, the wrap up of the show. So, hey, thanks, guys, for joining me today. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Frankie. Before we go, Brad, Frankie, Brad first, then Frankie. Would you guys care to let our 6 viewers know where they can find you and your awesome content on the internet?
Yeah, so for me, you can find me on the Cinema Speak podcast. We're on Twitter or X at the Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak podcast, and on YouTube as Cinema Speak. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you find your shows. Just search Cinema Speak, and on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com.
All right, thanks for that, Brad. And how about yourself, Frankie?
Yeah, so if you want to hear me go on about movies and video games and YouTube and filmmaking, like some of what you heard today, subscribe to Red Cow Arcade on YouTube. We do fully produced, edited clips from talented editors like Trevor. And then you can join the Patreon for $2 a month and join us in a Discord and also watch the full podcast when those come out every other week. And then if you want to go over to Red Cow Entertainment, that's where we make a lot of comedy content, multiple web series. And if you're interested in my feature films, redcowentertainment.com, you can kind of find everything about maybe a good place to start would be go to either channel and watch the channel trailer. It's a 16-minute crash course in what we're about.
Yeah, highly recommended. Very shortly after I discovered you and EJ's work, Frankie, I took it upon myself to watch that intro video, and it was very well done and very informative. It got me up to speed right away. It served its purpose quite well.
Yeah, I remember needing to do it in a rush, because I was like, we were suddenly exposed to a larger audience than we were used to because of this angry video game nerd discussion. And I was like, everybody has the wrong idea of who I am. And so I need to be able
don't
to tell
just
my
do
own
that.
Yeah.
I'm not just a pair of brown shorts.
I mean, I am a pair of brown shorts. It's not just a pair of brown shorts. It's funny, YouTube, you are defined by whatever you're most popular. I suppose that's true in all media. Whatever you're best known for is everything about who you are, and obviously that's not accurate. So yeah, I mean, the other side of that equation with YouTube is you get to tell your own story. So we told our own story, and I remember it was really challenging to edit because it was 25 years of clips that I was like, I don't think I have the hard drive space for this project.
I was like, I don't think I have the lightning cable that's over 120 feet long or whatever.
I don't think I have the ceiling clamps for this.
Oh man, how many tripods I'm gonna have to put up on the ceiling this time?
I don't have the ceiling clamps. It's kind of like saying like I don't have the integrity, or I don't have the gusto. I don't have the ceiling clamps for this project.
Oh man, this has been a really special episode of the show for me. I'm so glad I could have you on the show, Frankie, and thank you so much for the opportunity to slob it out for you guys.
It's the privilege is mine, and thanks for having me. This is, like you said, we do this over on our channel, so it was awesome. And Brad, excellent meeting you. So we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really hope we can have you back, Frankie. But yeah, thanks again. 2024 has been a really big year for me, like learning a lot of new skills and doing a lot of good work, mostly for you. So thanks again.
That's so good to hear.